How are you today? We're up on a tree stump, standing in the sunshine, letting the universe tickle us. We're showing our essence and letting out a cosmic giggle. Hi Laura, how are you, dear? So today I'm feeling, well, I'm always feeling a little feisty and a little bit like, I always got a little cosmic giggle going on. It's just how much do I recognize it? Because life is so funny like that for me. I don't know about y'all and how it plays out in your life, but it's little things where I have to kind of catch myself and go, life is not meant to be so serious. I mean, really? And even sometimes, like, now you notice little key terms and things that people do or say, like, really? Like, oh my gosh. And you're like, yeah, really, it is happening again. And it's just the universe's way to kind of poke and prod you to remind you that, did you learn the lesson? We're showing up again for your benefit only, because that's really what it's all about. Everything's happening for you, not to you, right? So it took me a while to figure that all out in my life, explicitly, because things just kept happening. And then eventually I was like, maybe there's a correlation with me versus everybody else and everything else I keep on encountering, the people and the things that keep happening. And so today I'm kind of feeling a little silly with these shits and giggles, okay? And I actually think that's the funniest thing to say. You go on with your shits and giggles, It's all shits and giggles. Well, it really is. Think about it. So, like, oh my God, Becky, look at her butt, Hey, that's a compliment, by the way. I mean, truly, there's a giggle in it all. There's probably some shit too. And there's where you need to kind of discern. So, continuing with the theme, where's the focus of your attention and your thoughts? That's what this really is telling us. It's like, are you so caught up in the shit that you can't giggle? Or are you too giggly that you don't recognize there might be a little shit in that too? I mean, it's balance, people. It's recognizing, am I focused on that over there or focused on this over here? I know for myself, it was, again, I shared this just the other day. It was easy for me to find the negative in things because, well, I was caught up in my own negative stuff. Because what was going on inside of me is what I was seeing outside of me. It's what I was projecting and receiving and, allowing. It's the manifestation. It literally is the stuff that's crap up in here is the crap that gets stuck in here and it keeps on going all around you. So if your focus is just so dogmatic about how you think things should be and you're so stuck in something, well, that's holding on to shit, isn't it? Your beliefs, they have to shift and change unless you just don't want to grow or evolve. That's the only way to unravel or peel back layers is to allow yourself to maybe consider confronting what you've always known and thought you knew. There's plenty of conversations we can have around whether or not something is true. Well, maybe it is true for me, but maybe not for you. And so never shut someone down and say, that's not true, or that is true. Because really, it may be for them. It may be true for them. And if someone is struggling with their own stuff, internal stuff, for us to project and say, well, that's not true, not for us. And facts are still sometimes, like, they kind of teeter-totter. Facts can just as much be opinion that we've adopted as being true, not necessarily that they really are true. Most of the stuff out in the media is most people's opinions, and we're conversing about people's opinions, and if you don't like it, who said you had to engage? It's choosing to be right or to be happy, that you can actually allow yourself to be guided in the flow of life and not get distracted, right? So when you get baited, I saw something terminology was earlier today about getting baited. You have to be really clear on whether or not it's the person that baited you or your ego that baited you. Yeah, okay, people are deceitful. People do things. Sometimes they're the best teachers. And you can't shoot the messenger for the lesson, the blessing in the lesson that you have just gone through. So yeah, maybe you get a little upset with somebody because they lacked integrity, or that they pushed your buttons, or they triggered you. But was that really about them or really about you? Yeah, I'd be upset. Of course, my mind, my ego, it's the first thing my mind will go to, like, how dare you deceive me, deliberately knowing. Well, wait a minute. Why didn't I notice it? That it was a bait. Well, I wasn't into me. Intimacy. Into me, I see the intuition, just trusting my gut and recognizing that, do I want to engage in some of that? Or do I want to turn around and step back, right? Whew, and just walk away? Because when we engage in something that triggers us, well, clearly there's something that still is coming up for us to heal. The topic of poop. It's a healthy, natural thing that happens. Just because you don't want to talk about it doesn't mean you have to engage or tell people that you don't want to talk about it. But the irony is it caught you enough that it pulled you into it for you to even say anything. Now, you know what? I'm going to tell you, poop is funny. It always has been. And you know why? Because we're so caught up in our shit. We all think it doesn't smell bad. We think it's all roses. We want other people to like our shit, but we don't want to take anybody else's. Huh. Can anybody else see the metaphor in that, or the irony, or the cosmic giggle? The universe is tickling you. That's what dropped in this morning in my practice today, is it truly is. The universe will give every opportunity to tickle you, but whether or not you're going to giggle, or you're going to be stuck. Are you going to hold on to that crap? You're going to allow it to pass through. I just, reflecting as I was walking with Buddy along the path, asking myself, when I really think about, and I recognize this, I've been thinking about this for years. I've known that for me, a lot of my digestive issues have had to do specifically with emotional issues. So being very emotional as a young child, I didn't know how to process my emotions properly. Nobody really taught me how to express myself. Instead, I held on to it, right? And when I held on to it, the stomach is also our emotional center. It's our power center. So when you become emotional, you become irrational. If you catch yourself being emotional and commotional, acting out instead of responding and sitting with it, that means that we still have to learn how to process and express ourselves better. The simplicity of drinking some water, because we are 70% water, can help rebalance you. But again, you still have to work on that recapturing, that reclaiming of your personal power, your emotional center. The power center is the navel center. And that's where most of our emotions get processed, in our gut. That's why it's our second brain, if not our first, really. Because we think, again, this is where most of the dis-ease happens, is in the mind, and it just translates into the belly, in the stomach, because the body listens to the mind. And so for myself, when I was growing up and unable to express myself and getting emotional and feeling the tension, the stress, the dis-ease with myself and not knowing how to handle it, I held on to it, and it was stuck here. Yeah. And because of that, I grew up with irritable bowel syndrome, it wasn't diagnosed until about 15, 16 years ago when I was in the military. But they didn't know what, and they still never really truly associated with the root cause of it. IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, in my case, constipation. There's also the diarrhea version. I know that it explicitly for myself wasn't just the food, but it's part of it, because during the time that I went through some of the most emotional, traumatic experiences were during times when my dad had a pizzeria. I was around gluten You know, that was the comfort food. What do you put in your mouth during the times of trauma when you feel, I mean, when you find that your trepidations and like you don't want to deal with something, what do? You get up, you go and grab something to eat. Sometimes that in itself is a distraction. I learned that a few years back when I was doing Beyond Addiction the first time, that I could say it was because I was hungry, but in true reality I could also recognize I used it as a distraction from dealing with whatever was coming up, and it was so deep below the surface I couldn't necessarily tell you, and it's not important what it was. It was just enough to know that, boy, I was wanting something to put in my mouth. And that's related. All of that's related. And so holding on to stuff and not being able to digest properly so that it moved with free movement, flowing through, right? To have a natural system, your body processing emotions, digestion, for it to be in a healthy state, this has to also be in a healthy state. Everything we put in our mouth isn't just a reality of, well, I'm eating well. No, sometimes we're not thinking well either, and it has to be balanced. Because what we reach for is instigated or motivated through here, and then how it processes through is also what's going on at the same time we're putting it in. Are we taking the moment to be completely, fully present with it, or are we just shoveling it in to stuff things down? And so going back to this in the way that I have seen it in my life and how it's played out is that, yes, when I get excited and I don't always have the best expression of myself and the emotions that I'm going through, I'm still learning how to properly communicate, to consciously communicate what it is that's going on within me, and to know, also sometimes you have to know who you can speak to about it. Because I hate to say this, you can't always expect to be able to tell your partner. For those of you in relationship, you still need your girlfriends. Sometimes you need to express yourself with people outside of your intimate relationships. And the reason I say that is because I think that's an important factor that women forget, is that as women, we need each other just as much as we need our significant other, our partners, our spouses. And so keeping that in mind, you have to sometimes take yourself out of an environment that maybe you're very comfortable with in order to see it from the outside and not always just being in it. And when you're always in it, you may not see it all and what is really transpiring and what's processing in you at that time. So stepping out of your space, your comfort zones, is what will actually give you the most insight into what's going on internally as well. So with constipation and not being able to digest and learning how to process and express those emotions that are going on, really technically up here, but they're translating it down in here. We want that energy to stay in motion. We want to flow, right? And so if you are in dis-ease in your mind, it's really easy to recognize that if you're holding on to, and I'm going to say, if you're holding on to shit and it's not processing through, chances are you're probably being confronted around you with lots of shit you don't want to hear, see, right? And I say this because it's all relevant. So for example, in the group, some people weren't happy about seeing pictures of poop. Scrolling on, people, but voicing your opinion. Is it relevant? Is it kind? Is it necessary? It's okay to mute. It's okay to block. It's okay to hide a post so you don't see it again. The reality is it's a natural fact of life. It happens. What is it in your life that you don't want to be confronted about, or the shit you don't want to look at in your own life that you don't want to see it outside of you? Because it's going to appear on the outside just as much. And I know some of us might have grown up in environments where poop was, ew, gross, icky, stinky, poo. In my house, it was funny to fart, and, like I've had funny conversations. My mom had me rolling the other day. She was talking about how, I remember that time you called me up and you were explaining to me that you couldn't even get it down the toilet. Yeah, that happens. That's how bad it gets with me. I was embarrassed because I'm like, Mom, I sure hope I can break it up so I don't have to reach in and try to put it in the trash. And yes, I've had to do that too. This is just life. And tell me you haven't had something where you were like, God, I don't think I'd be so embarrassed to tell anybody about this. But boy, doesn't it sound so much better when you don't have to hold on to crap. Now, and I mean that, not just in your physical body, but crap in your mind is really why it ends up here. So if you are holding on to something, you're afraid to share something. Yeah, let it rip, right, Kathy? That's the truth. And so when you are embarrassed by something you've done in your life, you're holding on to something you don't even realize. It's a belief system. It's always going to go back to your belief systems. If you are embarrassed by your own personal shit, you're afraid someone's going to see it, and then all of a sudden you see someone else's, boy, and then you're ready to attack. It's a projection. Think about that. You don't want to see that out there, because maybe you were raised in a family that was all about, oh, we don't talk about that at the dinner table. Yeah, we're not talking about having those conversations at the dinner table. And if you're looking through Facebook at the dinner table or the breakfast table and it's upsetting you, well, where's your priority? Clearly, you can't sit and have a meal in silence, that you still are attached to social media. So these are things that, we have to confront ourselves with and have those conversations. Those are the painful conversations. You don't want to hear it? It's that crap. You got to let go of that. You got to let it go. Let her rip. Oh, I am near an osprey's nest, and I forgot about that. Oh, there's 2 of them landing. It's so beautiful. Can you hear them? Did you ever think about it? Now, the birds have something to teach us, right? The birds just drop it wherever. They're not worried about where it's going to land. Could be on your head. You never know, right? Did anybody ever see that movie, Under the Tuscan Sun, with Diane Lane, when she's in that home where she wanted to buy that Tuscan villa that was totally, needing renovation, and she all of a sudden had a bird poop on her head, and the woman's like, oh my God, it's so perfect, it's a sign, è un segno, it's a sign, it's a good sign, right? It is a beautiful song they're singing. Maybe I'll get lucky and they'll poop on my head. I'll deal with it. But and I used to watch that movie when I lived in Italy, when I was going through some of my depression. When I would go through these times, I'd remind myself that this woman completely upped and took a chance and moved to a country she didn't even know the language. It's also good luck to step in poop in Italy too, by the way. Or to dream of poop. By the way, if you ever dream of poop, it's actually a sign of money coming into your life. And I can't tell you what I dreamed specifically last night, so I don't know. Maybe I dreamed of poop. Seems to be a topic of conversation lately, but it's the irony that which you resist will persist. So if it's something you don't want to see, maybe you need to look within and confront what it is you don't want to see within yourselves. You see this stuff outside of yourself for a reason. If it's triggering you, you can move on. If you're willing to not always have to be right and voice your opinion, because that's your will, your ego, that is so strong and stuck in its belief system that, how dare you offend me? I'm going to speak up because I should be vindicated and validated. How's that serving you? Probably hasn't got you very far in life. And I'm a subscriber. I've been there, done that. And speaking up more than anything caused more conflict in my life when it wasn't even relevant. Okay, I turned around and I said something, and then guess what? I got backlash as a result. And then other times when maybe I did need to speak my truth and speak up and set healthy boundaries, it was a totally different situation. But that was part of me processing an expression of my emotions, which I just expressed in the earlier part of this video, that was very difficult as a child. And again, as we become adults, we have to clean up. We have to rewrite our stories. We have to look within and peel back those layers to see, why is there shit in my life that I can't let go of? And how has it been serving me that I've held on to it for so long? And that could be in any form, whether it's a physical form or the clutter around you, or literally stepping in shit all the time. And I don't mean figuratively, but maybe like these posts the other day. How do you deal with negativity on Facebook? It's to get you to think about it. Where is your focus? Because if you're finding a lot of negativity, chances are that maybe there's some stuff internally that you're also projecting toward yourself internally. I know the times that I'm most critical, hypercritical, and talking, to myself unkindly, negative self-talk, very like, why did you do that? And you're such an idiot. Whatever verbiage you're using on the inside is typically going to come out on the outside. You're going to find things to complain about when you're already beating yourself up about. Or even better, people will also come at you the same way you're coming at yourself from the inside. And so when people are being unkind and there's negativity in their tones and their posts or their comments, sometimes reacting to it isn't necessarily what's necessary. I mean, sometimes, I'll be honest, I will actually be sparked enough to engage. Something will tell me you're meant to engage in this. And it's not usually to attack the person as much as maybe to try to figure out or understand where they're coming from, because to have compassion is to stand under a person, to have enough humility, right, to recognize there's something deeper under the surface. If someone is going through some stuff in their life, chances are they're spewing it out, they're not recognizing what's going on inside. And you find that the negativity they're projecting out there or putting out there is really that, they're having a bad day. We've had some people speak up about how unhappy they are about seeing things, but that probably means there's some stuff going on in their lives. And so I'll never shoot the messenger. I just want to recognize that we all got our shit. But that doesn't dictate how we should show up in life either. And so we don't need to hold on to it. We do need to let it go and relax into the flow. Allow our lives to unfold in a more beautiful way. Right? No pun intended. They got stuff going on in their life. I know. And you know what? We all do. And just coming from the place of compassion, that when you've got stuff going on in your life and you see somebody else out there who's all, rah, 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 well, they probably got some serious stuff going on up in here toward themselves. I had to figure that out. My mother used to say things like, I never want to be one of those old, grumpy old ladies. They're so bitter, the bitter old ladies, rah, 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 rah. And then my mom one day said to me, I think I figured out why those ladies are bitter. It's the life that they've gone through. And I take that one step even further, is that the life that they've lived has typically been so internalized with being the victim and being attacked, that they've had enough, but they haven't really dealt with what it is that they internalized. And so, we all have to find our healing. And whether we hold on to something or we attack out on something, it's all a choice. Something I thought was really interesting while I was taking this walk is, it doesn't matter what you've been through. I listen to Abraham Hicks sometimes, and she talked about the analogy, Esther and Abraham. She talked about this analogy that, we tend to have like a river, right? And we can go with the flow of the river, or we can go against the current, facing upstream with our back to the downstream. And how is that serving us, that we're constantly trying to go against the current? It's causing us to work harder. And again, we're exhausted from that. We've been so conditioned to think we need to work harder to achieve, to be successful, when in reality, we just need to do it smarter. And instead of doing it from here, we need to do it from here with a strong, claiming yourself to calm and to succeed in life. It's really that power center, that navel point. It's coming from that position of having control over your mind. Because the mind is what dictates what you think are emotions. And when emotions are irrational and you're, it's because it's the disconnect of the mind and the heart. And the mind is actually ruling you, and you've become the victim, you've become the slave to it. And so one of the questions that kind of popped up as I was walking along, it's okay to be where you're at, right? I am here now in this. You don't have to figure out how you got there. You don't have to retrace your steps and go back to the past. That's just, again, just like the constipation or the diarrhea. If you're stuck in the past, it's going to keep you holding on to that stuff, that shite. Or maybe you're trying to run to the future and maybe you're running to the bathroom. So I know for me that it was just holding on to emotion, and that was why I wasn't able to let go of the physical manifestation. And I get better as I release and relax into things and not take it so seriously, right? And also being kinder to myself in my mind. That's probably the hardest thing right there, right? Cheryl, I love you. Oh my gosh. I got some stories. Hold on a minute. But diarrhea, it could also be that if you're the type of person who suffers with a lot of diarrhea, it could be that maybe instead of processing the emotions and allowing yourself to feel them, you're trying to push them away. You're trying to get rid of them. So you try to run through them, and then it's running through you too. I mean, these are just things that come to me. I don't know if that's your experience. Well, only you will know. I don't know your truth, right? But that's how I would interpret it if it were me. Because that's the only person I can relate to, right? That's the only thing I can compare, is my experience to what it is I'm aware of. It's a funny story. I'm on an airplane. I kid you not. I think I was going from Germany back down to Naples. And on this flight, I swear there was a kid on the flight the entire time. Lana-isms, I love that. Hashtag that, Cheryl. That's perfect. That is so true. There was this young boy on the plane, and he kept on saying, and if you know German, Scheiße, Scheiße, Scheiße. I swear his voice sounded exactly like that too. He was young. And I'll tell you what, I was annoyed. I was annoyed because all I could think of was somebody just taught this kid to curse, because it's a German curse word and it means shit. And honestly, when I grew up, my parents, yeah, they might have cursed, but there was something intuitive in our family that as children, we just didn't curse. It wasn't necessary. Thank you, dear. So to hear it in young children is not cute to me. If anything, it's like, you know what, you may think it's funny, but that's not adult humor. It's not necessary. And then now the child or the parent or whoever's got to deal with it, right? And it's not necessarily teaching respect in children, in my opinion. That's my opinion. When you become an adult, it's totally different. And even then, it's about respecting yourself enough to not necessarily have to constantly use certain words. If you feel the need to use words that, just to grab attention, which is 9 times out of 10, that's what curse words are, is to pull someone out of their stuff. And yes, it will trigger some people. And I don't use them very often because they're shock factor words, aren't they? They don't require much thought nor actual application and consideration and compassion with them. They just come out like vomit, right? So this little boy is on this airplane, Scheiße, 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 Scheiße. I kid you not, for an hour and a half. The entire flight. And I'm like, excuse my French, I was effing it too. I was like, you're fucking kidding me. I was like, teach this kid another language. Someone teach him a new word, please. This is what went through my mind. And that was one of my examples of how you can easily get pulled out of yourself if you focus on what's going on around you. If you allow something to take you out of your presence, you're placing yourself in your degenerations. And this is a word, by the way. Degenerescence, not degenerance. When you allow someone to take you out, okay, write this down, someone, because this is a really good one. When you allow something or someone to take you out of your presence, you go into your degenerescence. What that is to degenerate. You have now placed yourself in your degenerescence. And so then you become and degeneration is basically going backwards, right? It's to to, instead of grow, instead of be strong, you become weak and you deteriorate. So that is the true nature of life, is we want to constantly be in our vitality. We want to be in our essence and be present, because the degenerescence isn't even necessary. We don't need to, I know that's a tongue twister, isn't it? Degenerate, unless we allow something to take us out of that. And that's, again, always going to be a choice. So yeah, I'm on a plane with the little kid, and I'm allowing it to take away my joy and my presence in the moment and the entire flight, actually. Maybe I put in earbuds. I might have been able to tune it out, but I just remember thinking, wow, that was a whole lot of, kid with a focus. And he was standing up on the chair, on his seat. And his family, his parents were right there next to him. Not once did I ever see them say, sit down, be quiet, or anything. Now, there's got to be a balance in it all anyway. But literally, he was standing up, looking over at the people behind him, doing it the whole time. I'm like, really? I'm so glad I'm over here. Although I was just a couple rows back over still. It's just cray-cray. These are the things that are going on. But you know what, Justin? Chances are that no parenting comes from the lack of parenting in their own lives. And so we perpetuate legacies. And again, I have compassion for that. I'm not saying I don't fault the child whatsoever. All I could think of was, can I teach the child a new word, please? I really wanted to go over and just talk to the child, but I didn't, I didn't have the courage enough to do that on an airplane. And, I didn't, there's some parents, I don't necessarily need a scene, that are going to totally go off on you for stepping in and stepping across that boundary too. So there was the part of me that really wanted to just go, can I just talk to this child and teach him a new word, please? Along with the other part of my mind that was like, this is crazy. So I have another funny story about poop that is hilarious. And if Gloria, if you get to see this, you will laugh, because I know you'll remember and appreciate this story. And her daughter is adorable, beautiful, is grown up now. But when she was a little girl, I used to watch her daughter quite often when I was living up in northern Maine. I loved watching her whenever I could, actually. I was watching her one time, and I was in the kitchen, and I think I was preparing something to eat for us. And I kid you not, I'm like, it's awful quiet in here. And I go in the other room, and she's smearing her diaper of shit all over the wall. And I'm like, any parents out there? If you're a parent and you have a problem with poop, then you're not really a parent. I can't believe you. And I say this because you got to deal with poop from the minute they're born until whenever they're gone. I hear the stories from my sister and that experience and the times that I've watched people's children, and it's just funny to me, because we all have a fascination with poop when we're little kids. If we're saying that we are immune to that as children, then it's because it was planted in us and we were told. I'm serious, Cheryl. She was painting that wall, smearing it all on. It was a fecal masterpiece. I love it. Now, years later, when I saw her again, I just looked at her and I laughed and I said, I know something about you that's funny. I'm going to tell you a story. And she laughed. She was like, I did not. And then she started laughing. I said, yes, you did. But, these are the things about, our childhood. We're told, not everybody, but we're told we're supposed to be embarrassed about. And so when you become an adult and you don't want to see it, I'm better than that. I can't look at poop. Seriously. And then there are people who have their own fetishes around it, probably because they were suppressed and told they should not have any association with looking at it. So, fetishes are also something that come out of being told how bad it is, or like fixations, right? When you're told you shouldn't do something, what's the first thing a child does? Don't touch that hot stove, Johnny. Ah! What did I tell you? Well, don't tell anybody to not do anything. Even as adults will tell you, don't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. I'm going to do it anyway. Watch. Oh, that wasn't such a good idea now, was it? Let people make their own choices. You can't turn around and tell them what to do. It's all shits and giggles, right? You gotta let that stuff go, homie, right? I know not much can embarrass you, and I have my own other stories that are just pretty funny, but I gotta hold off on some of them and share those at a later time, maybe. Life is too short to get caught up in the stuff. I call it stuff instead of, I don't really always say shit, so, but truly, like, when you hold on to something, it's just going to keep on appearing in your life. And so I totally challenge anybody who ever feels threatened, offended, triggered, because you know what? If you feel offended, that's a trigger. That's the same thing. It's like saying you still got issues with something, and you need to confront that. Don't have to do it because I say so, but at some point in your life, it's going to keep on. It's just going to keep on coming up until you're willing to step into your personal power and recognize that, guess what? You're better than that. You're better than your belief system. You have to constantly confront your beliefs, or they're going to rule you just because the belief is the mind tricking you, and that's where you're the slave, and this mind becomes the master. So you want to master the mind and be a mastermind, right? Nobody wants to be enslaved by this, right? I know, right? Oh, Lexi, yeah, working at a daycare. I can imagine the stories you got to tell, baby. Yeah. Hey, children love it. It's all good. And I'll tell you what, I have no problem with it. I'm willing to pick up the doggy poo. Hey, it doesn't bother me. It's all poopy. And it's all good. And I would rather someone be excited about their poop and say, look, I went to the bathroom today. Do you know, some people don't do that. And maybe that's why people get a little angered and triggered, because they're still holding on their poop and they need a good BM. Have you had your BM today? Cray, cray, I got my eyeball on you. It's crazy eyes. My sister and I joke about that. We're like, I got crazy eyes. See my crazy eyes. Yeah, I got many flavors. Somebody's trying to pull some out of me. There's some goofy goddess that came out today. I don't know what that's all about. There does need to be more open discussion. You know, it's just like one of the conversations, you know, as my dad's gotten older, it's like he's brought up stuff to me that I'm like, oh gosh, that's right, I'm the oldest daughter. I guess this is a conversation that I may have to have with my aging parents, let's say. And I don't say aging as a derogatory term. I say it in the respect that they're older than me, so of course they're aging beyond me. But the idea that, you know, men start to have issues with their prostate as they get older, and it's a conversation. It has to be had. You know, the reason people end up at the doctor is they feel more comfortable having those conversations with the doctors, and the doctors don't even know all the answers. So if you live with it on a daily basis and you live with somebody, that's a sign of an intimacy that you should be able to have, that, you know, you can't hold back from your partner. Gosh, if you have to be taken to the hospital, what happens if you're unconscious? You want your partner to know your history. Whether or not they want to hear it, well, then that says something about the relationship to begin with. You know, if you are letting loose and you got that caboose baboofing around the house, that's a good thing. At least you know that you and your partner are on the same wavelength, right? So, and it's, you know, it's encouraging to know that somebody actually cares enough to know what is going on with you in your health. And if you're having to hold back, or, you know, like, have you ever seen these movies? I know I just watched one where, not that long ago, where the woman literally would put her makeup on. She would go to sleep with makeup on, so until her partner fell asleep, and then she'd get up, go wash her face off, and get back in bed, and then set her alarm prior to when he woke up, get back up, put the makeup on, so that when he saw her, he only saw her with makeup and looking all perfect. Who the heck could go through all that? That's a whole lot of stress. That's a mask every day. You know, you don't even get to be seen truly as you are. I know what it was. It's a TV series that I found on Amazon Prime. But truly, like, that would drive me cray-cray. And there was a time when I used to feel like I had to always be dressed a certain way and done a certain way and wouldn't step out of my house unless my hair was done or whatever. Even when I was a little girl, actually, I used to like to have my hair up. It's that kind of stuff that we're not comfortable as we are, and that's what needs to be confronted the most. We should be able to be free in our expression, authentically, without apology. I have no time to downplay or overplay, just being, right? And so now I feel so much better in my skin, and I think it's less aging for, whatever, wrinkles. Laughter's the best medicine, y'all. That's why I said, allow the universe to tickle you and let out your cosmic giggle. That totally dropped in this morning. I was like, ooh, I like that. That's beautiful. Because that's really what it is life is constantly tickling you, and whether or not you're going to choose to giggle, or you're going to turn around and just get all wound up and bound up, right? It's getting a little chilly, and I got a birthday party to attend to this evening, so it's time to take this precious pup back home. Just to share, let me see where I'm standing in this really funky spot, and I don't want to drop down into a hole right here. She'll all be like, where'd she go? I'm still here. Hello, help somebody, help. I need somebody, help. Not just anybody, help. I need somebody, help. I'm just me, choosing to be free, graceful and at ease. I'm Lana. Take me as I am, but only if you can. Dance this dance with me. I like being silly. Can you handle it? I don't mean the shit. It's peaceful. It's meaningful. It's life. Lana, Lana, Bobana, Bofana, Fana, Fofana. Actually, we had this, that's a funny story. Living in Korea when I was stationed at Osan years ago, and the Air Force. Go blue, aim high, soar. There was a man that I worked with, and I'll never forget. He used to like to do the banana song like that. And he banana, nana, fo, fana, fi, fi, fo, lana, lana. And then he did my colleague, and he's like, tucker, tucker, boop. And he caught himself, and I'm like, tee-hee. Gotta be careful about people's names when you do the banana song, right? Just saying. So, again, life is short. Be kind. Be pleasant. Show up as you are. Okay, so we got the sun, and it is setting. Check it out. I've got a hedge over here. Thank you so much, Lexi. I hope this conversation helps someone out there. Life is too short to get caught up in the drama, right? It really is about stepping into your grace and your ease. Because truly, think about this for a second, because I was thinking about how when you're looking for something in someone else, when you're expressing your happiness, that's huge. First off, it's great to be happy, and you should express and be free to be you. And if someone else is reaching out and getting upset, see, this is the question. Oh, I had this earlier. It was so sweet. Do you praise or disgrace? So are you praising your life and those around you? Or are you disgrace, where you look and you get upset when someone else is happy? Because quite often, a lot of times people are really finding things wrong because they feel there's so much wrong within themselves. So if anything, when you see somebody is stuck in their dis-ease, it's usually because they're unhappy with themselves. So send them some love, some blessings, some mwah, I love you just the way you are. Because we all truly, that's all that we want. And let that crap go and enjoy the flow. I love you all. Have an amazing Friday.